All right, let's dive into something pretty wild today. What if I told you there's a startling connection between flying machines described in ancient Sanskrit texts and the bizarre, high-tech objects our modern militaries are tracking right now? We're going on a journey that stretches across thousands of years, from ancient India all the way to the skies over the Pacific.
So, let's just jump right in, take a look at this. On the left, you've got an artist's idea of an ancient Vimana based on texts that are thousands of years old. And on the right, that's the infamous Tic-Tac object our own Navy pilots recorded. The first thing you notice is what's not there. No wings, no engines, no exhaust. Just these smooth, seamless craft. It's this visual echo through time that really kicks off our whole investigation.
And that really brings us to the core question, doesn't it? Are we just looking at a massive coincidence? You know, maybe humans just imagine flying things in similar ways. Or could this be something more? Could these reports, separated by an ocean of time, actually be pointing to the same persistent piece of technology?
To even begin to answer that, we've got to get into the nuts and bolts. We're going to break down the physical descriptions, what they looked like, and, just as importantly, how they flew, to see if these patterns hold up under scrutiny.
So let's start with the basic shapes. The ancient texts talk about Vimanas that were disc-shaped, some were spherical, others were long like cigars or cylindrical. Now jump to the modern era. What are the most common UAP shapes reported? Saucers, orbs, and yeah, triangles and cylinders. You see these same basic, fundamental geometric forms popping up again and again. It really suggests that form follows function, and maybe the function hasn't changed.
And it's not just how they look, it's how they move. The old stories described craft that could shoot off at incredible speeds, stop on a dime, and just hover completely silent. Sound familiar? It should. That's a perfect match for what our best pilots and sensor systems are reporting today. Objects pulling off maneuvers that defy our understanding of physics and aerodynamics.
So when you actually lay it all out, side by side, this clear pattern just snaps into focus. We're not talking about one or two little similarities here. The consistency in the shapes, the impossible movements, the ability to just hang in the air, it all points to a set of parallels that are frankly really hard to just brush off as coincidence.
Okay, but now let's go a layer deeper. Let's move beyond the physical body of these craft and talk about the energy they seem to put out. Because this is where the connection gets even more fascinating.
First, let's be clear on what we mean by an energy signature. Think of it as the footprint the object leaves on its environment. We're talking about things like glowing lights, a weird aura, or crucially, messing with electronic devices. All of these things hint that there's some kind of powerful, non-conventional energy source at play.
And get this is not a new idea. Buried in those ancient texts are these incredible little lines about Vimanas disturbing instruments, or creating what sounds like a protective energy field. It really suggests they understood that these craft had a powerful effect on their surroundings, long before we had a concept for electromagnetism.
Now, fast forward to today, and that's exactly what we hear in modern reports, with incredible precision. Pilots and witnesses describe car engines just dying, compasses going haywire, and our own military sensors picking up electromagnetic pulses. The ancient description of disturbing instruments and the modern data, well, they line up almost perfectly.
Okay, so let's ground all this theory in reality. We're going to walk through three of the most famous, most documented modern cases. These aren't just stories. These are major events that have shaped this entire field of study. Our journey starts in 1947 with the Roswell incident. Then we'll jump ahead 50 years to 1997 for the Phoenix Lights. And finally, we'll land in 2004 with the encounter that changed everything, the USS Nimitz and the Tic-Tac. Each one adds a crucial piece to the puzzle. Let's start back in 1947, New Mexico, Roswell. Now I know, it's a loaded name, surrounded by controversy. But the reason it's still a benchmark today is because of the reports of actual, physical material being recovered. The consistent stories that came out of that event talked about a few key things. A craft that crashed after traveling at high speed, and debris made of this bizarre material. Super lightweight, but incredibly strong. What's interesting is that some researchers have pointed out how the described wreckage seems to echo the multi-layered designs of some Vimanas. All right, let's jump forward 50 years. Something truly incredible happened over a major American city. We're talking thousands of people, from the governor to everyday citizens, all looking up at the sky over Phoenix, Arizona, and seeing the same impossible thing.
What they saw was this massive V-shaped formation of lights, blotting out the stars, moving slowly and completely silently over the city. It just hung there. And this is where it clicks back to those ancient texts, which specifically describe large Vimanas moving in formation over cities. The parallel is just uncanny.
And that brings us to the encounter that really blew the lid off this thing in the 21st century. I'm talking, of course, about the 2004 USS Nimitz encounter. This is the one that gave us hard, undeniable military-grade data.
This is the game changer. Why? Because we're not just talking about what a pilot saw anymore. We're talking about an object caught on some of the most advanced sensor systems on the planet. It demonstrated flight characteristics that we still can't replicate, dropping from the sky, stopping on a dime, and accelerating to hypersonic speeds with no heat signature, no wings, nothing. This data is powerful evidence for some kind of energy-based system, just like what the Vimana texts seem to describe.
Okay, so after looking at all that, after seeing all these parallels, you have to be asking, is any of this even remotely plausible from an engineering standpoint? Is anyone actually working on this stuff? Well, the answer might surprise you. It's a big yes.
You see, research programs you might have heard of, like the Pentagon's AATIP or the legendary Advanced Research Agency DARPA, are actively investigating these exact concepts. The stuff that used to be pure science fiction is now the focus of serious, cutting-edge science.
And look at what they're focused on. Inertial field manipulation, which is basically a fancy way of saying controlling gravity and acceleration. High-energy propulsion, and electromagnetic shielding. I mean, this list reads like a technical manual for how a UAP or a Vimana would have to work. Modern physics is starting to sketch out a blueprint that looks eerily familiar.
So, what does it all mean? Where does this leave us? Well, when you have ancient history and modern, hard data all pointing in the same direction, it suggests we're standing on the edge of a new scientific frontier, and it demands a whole new way of looking at the problem.
You know, the path forward isn't about blind faith or wild speculation. It's about a serious, structured approach. We need historians looking at these ancient texts not as myths, but as potential technical documents. We need engineers running computer simulations on these ancient designs. And we need data scientists to merge all that military sensor data with the historical record. It's a massive interdisciplinary challenge, but it's one we have to take on.
And that leaves us with this one kind of mind-blowing thought to wrap things up. The evidence doesn't just suggest a random mystery, it suggests a continuity, a technological threat that runs through millennia. So maybe the real question isn't just are we alone, but something far more profound. Are our smartest engineers today not inventing something new, but actually rediscovering a science that was understood and lost a long, long time ago?